Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Since we started this week with ships whose design had been abandoned, and it is probably for the better, well, here's another one. This is the Moskva. Now, I do fully realize that there are lots of people who really like the Moskva. The Moskva was the original Tier 10 tech tree cruiser on the Soviet tech tree line, and as such is actually one of the really old ships. And I think she was she would have been the first cruiser that had over 203mm caliber main guns. Because back then it was only the Japanese who had the 203s, it was the Americans who had the same, and it would have been the Soviets. So did the Soviets come? Yeah, they were there before the Germans, and it was I think it was the Riga at Tier 9 and the Moskva at Tier 10. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, should have been like that. And then until the introduction of things like the French cruisers, she was pretty much the only one who had these sort of things. Now, the Moskva was a Project 66 cruiser. And that is a little bit obscure because the Soviets had an awful lot of designs, but never obviously got around to actually building any of these. And they were actually planning to build these. Also the Stalingrad, which was a Project 82, I think, the cut-down version of the Kronstadt-class battlecruisers. And the Moskvas were sort of in the middle between the light cruisers, the Sverdlovsks, and the battlecruisers, technically, that the Stalingrads would have been. The purpose of these ships was sort of to counter the Des Moines. Now, I do have to actually make a video about this separately, because I have managed to get my hands on a book which has been co-written by a Russian and a German naval historian, and is relatively detailed on what the Soviets were actually planning around their naval expansion, especially in the early post-war years. But it's awfully complicated, and I have to really spend some time studying that. But I do want to make a video about all these things concerning the Soviet Navy. For now, suffice to say that there were many ideas about what kind of role these ships were supposed to play, and Stalin himself oftentimes insisted that they were supposed to be more of a defensive, more coastal, more fighting in their own waters sort of thing. So there was never really a good agreement on what the point of these ships actually was. If they were supposed to be heavy cruiser killers, or as Stalin himself at some point decided, they were more meant to counter things like British light cruisers. Either way, it didn't turn out very well, and it took so long and so many iterations until in the 1950s, well, there was a higher reliance on missiles. And things like there was still consideration for this class of ships to be more of an a.k.a. so carrier escort ship, but she didn't have the greatest a.k.a. in the world at the time, so it was decided to just never really proceed with these things. Like I said, she was the Tier 10 tech tree cruiser, together with I think it was the Kirov at Tier 5, and they have been replaced. So she's been replaced by the Petropavlovsk. And she has herself become a premium ship, which means that people who used to have this ship as a tech tree ship ended up having a free Tier 10 premium, which is, well, nothing to sneeze at. So, the Moskva. The Moskva, in reality, had several problems. She was way too big, she was way too expensive, and she was absolutely underpowered in terms of firepower. And, that sort of... That sort of translates. This thing was meant to cost almost as much as the Stalingrad class, and that was an actual battle cruiser. This was supposed to be a Des Moines counterpart, right? That was sort of the intention of these things. So let's have a quick look at the statistics and see. Maybe we'll compare her to the Petro, because I don't like the Petro either. So that's a good start. The Petro gets precise aim, gets the defensive A, and gets a single rapid reload, which is quite nice because you get the one skill Is it battlefield support? No, it's the other one. Anyway, you get the one skill where you get an additional precise aim and rapid reload, so you get both of those. In return, the Moskva has a single charge of radar. The Petro is sturdier. Moskva has more hit points, but is a damaged pinata, right? So this ship does not have the greatest of armors. And Moskva is more maneuverable, but not by a massive margin. The max traverse speed is pretty nice, so she does actually turn sufficiently well for a ship that size. But the guns are interesting because they are technically the same guns, only that the Moskva has a faster base reload, which is good, but she doesn't get the 360 rear turret. Has a longer range, but does lower damage in on the AP in return. These turrets have the same problem on both ships, which is that they effectively have battleship turret rotation. 5 degrees per second is dreadful for a cruiser. She gets she gets a smaller set of 130mm secondaries with a shorter range. And she gets a worse AA, and she gets the worst concealment. So this is effectively a worse Petro with a bit faster reload. And like I said, I didn't like the Petro to begin with. So yeah, what are the? I'm not looking at the Petro, looking at the Moskva, and look at the size. Somebody pointed that out actually, and then it's very true. The Petro is very low in the water. Look at the size difference between these two ships. Moskva is bigger. I mean, she's not as big as the Stalingrad, but she's a large ship. I mean, this ship is significantly larger than Hindenburg, and the Hindenburg is a monstrosity. So yeah, you do have a curious arrangement of the secondaries such that they're centerline mounted, which means that you can actually use these secondaries forward. And that is sort of your only option, because like this is pretty much the way you need to play this ship, because the size is huge, the armor is not good, and you're in tier 10, which means you'll only be facing tier 10 and tier 9 ships and large guns. Her utility against destroyers is questionable. I mean, you do get the one radar charge, and if they're being stupid, then you can do something about them. But other than that, the reload, and if you bow in, you're not having an awful lot of guns on target as well. And the guns are not great. These are 220mm guns, because the whole purpose was to say, hey, we are going to use a bigger caliber, so that make her superior to the Des Moines class. Well, the Americans had autoloaders. And yeah, the guns are not good. Let's do a quick comparison to the Hindenburg, because while the Hindenburg has a lower, the Hindenburg's obviously better armored than this thing, although she does have a lower hit point pool. But the Hindenburg has 12 203mm guns, which are almost doing the same amount of armor piercing damage than these things. So, and they are very, very punchy. Now, the Hindenburg doesn't have quite the same range as this thing, but they also have a 9 degree per second turret traverse, whereas this thing has battleship turret traverse. So this is effectively a battleship without any armor. And terrible guns. So what have I done with it? Equipment wise, the only choice really that you have in slot 1 is the main battery mod 1, because you really don't have an alternative. Most of the time you only be using 6 guns, because let's be honest, you can't broadside in the ship because you'll just outright be deleted. So a target that size with things like Vermonts out there, Yamatos and everything else, you're just going to be deleted. The second slot, I do recommend the propulsion mod, because you're going to have to play at max range and go backwards and forwards quite a lot to try as much as possible to dodge incoming shell fire, and to occasionally angle sufficiently to get your rear turret on target. And the steering gear mod as well, because the rudder shift at the base is not great. It's even with these values, still not great. We are getting to 10.7 seconds for the turn time. That is usually what I'm aiming for. I mean, not with a top tier battleship, but this would be a good battleship turn time. And yeah, we're getting to a 6 degree per second turret traverse, which is also not majestic. You can take either the main battery firing range or the additional torpedo damage and fire and flooding resistance. Given that the ship has a base firing flooding resistance of 15%, you're not going to get an awful lot, because it's not additive. If you've seen my video, it's not like you end up with 22%. No, you end up with 15 times 0.007, which is a lot. So I would recommend going for the range, because that all in all gets her main battery range up to 14.6 kilometers, which is pretty long, because I also have the historical camo on this ship. And the camo gives us hit points, range, better dispersion, and more torpedo damage reduction. The range, you need it. The problem is you're tier 10. Even if you're playing at max range, you're still way in front of your own battleship line. And that means that you be farmed very, very quickly. And this ship cannot take on... there are very few things that the ship can take on in a one-on-one fight, but we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, the commander. I have put the underwater protection expert. I have gotten myself a second or an additional defensive AA. I think she had 2 on the onset. Artillery maintenance and air defense expert. The fire supremacy, I'm actually going for a 4th precise aim, because you are going to have to shoot at max range, and the dispersion is good. But without the precise aim on, with the precise aim on, it's on point. Without the precise aim on, it can be a bit hit and miss. Exploit weakness, you may as well also take the generalist trait. Marksman skill, definitely, because the precise aim is, with 4 precise aims, you need the cooldown. I do have the adrenaline rush. You could also take the extinguisher. It doesn't make an awful lot of difference. Demo expert, and you could here take the close quarters as well, because like I said, the secondaries are actually centerline mounted, such that you can use your secondaries forward, and the range isn't terrible. So if something is coming at you, you have these 130mm secondaries that you can still use. And I've got the Honor Seeker here just because. Yeah, enough said. Actually, let's get into a couple of battles and. Well, I'll show you what I mean. So here we are in our first battle, and it's epicenter. We are playing against Monty, Bourgogne, Yamato, Amaino, Daring, and Mogador. Now you'd think with the radar and with 220mm main guns that do over 1,000 base damage, something like the Mino would be a prime target for me. Now let's go and see how it plays out. We do have an Ibuki on our side and a lone Holland who will have to try and contest the center cup. So that probably isn't going to work out too well. Especially the Mino obviously being a problem here. So what I'm going to do is, well, if I'm going to try and get into range of the enemy battleship line, I am going to have to play with an island cover. So that island there is where I'm going to be heading. And yep, somebody recognized me. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I'm in the Moskva. So I am going to head next to that island there and going to be using that as cover as much as possible, such that I can be bow in towards where the enemy battleships are sitting, and I will have range to cover the whole circle and hopefully give some fire support against the Holland, especially again against things like the Minotaur. So let's tuck ourselves in next to that island. It's a good position. It also means I'll be helping dominating the middle ring, and usually the battleships will be in the outer ring, so this is not a bad place to be, especially with the enemy cruisers around. So now I am detected, obviously, because well, there's a French destroyer in the game. There's the bot Ibuki. So given that I have nothing else to shoot at, I might as well get some shots out of that thing. But yeah, there we've got Bourgogne, Monty, Mogador, and Daring. So obviously they're immediately starting to shoot at me, and I'll see if I can get some shots off at the destroyers in the center. Now, shooting at destroyers in the ship, generally in heavy cruisers at range with the 203mm guns, armor piercing, and at closer range, high explosive. Okay, there's the Minotaur. Hold that thought. Shots out at the Minotaur. Nope, flat angles, can't get across it. And that was a nice citadel from, I think it was the Bourgogne that was hitting me there. And yeah, this quickly you're down to half hit points. And now obviously the Minor has smoked up and is trying to farm me. So let's get a couple of shots out at the Minotaur. And then just look at what happens to these shots, right? So this is 220 millimeter guns. 4 hits, 4 semi-pens on a broadsiding Minotaur. This is what I mean. The armor-piercing penetration is not great. I mean, now I've got some penetrations coming, but it's not great. I'm getting some shots out at the daring, but I think I can't lob across that island there either. And yeah, a couple more salvos and I'm down to 17,000 hit points because these battleships are just absolutely hammering this poorly armored massive target that I've got here. So now I've managed to get myself unspotted because this is a tactical position. The destroyers are hiding in the center cup behind the little island in the middle, which means that now I can try to get to work at against the Montana and the Bourgogne. The problem is the armor piercing isn't going to do anything because even on a broadsiding battleship I only managed to get 3 shots on target, but I have to switch over to the high explosive. Now the other problem is that the high explosive is also not particularly great, especially if you've only got 3 guns to work with. Okay, there's the Mogador, so prime target, precise aim up, shots out at the Mogador. And well, we got a couple of hits in on the Mogador, but it's not going to do an awful lot. And we are going to, but he's going too far on the other side, so he's out of my angles because I need to remain behind this island in order to remain unspotted. Now the problem is that Yamato that's coming around alongside there, but I haven't seen him yet. So for now I'm still unspotted. The Minotaur is still sitting in his smoke screen, couple of hits on the Bourgogne, but they do the high explosive does nothing. And yeah, like I said, the dispersion isn't great, even if I have if I don't have the precise aim on. So a couple targets that I can't hit, but maybe my armor piercing does better against the Frenchman because I can actually get these shots out. There comes the Mogador again, so gets ready to go back to the HE. And here I can actually use the forward secondaries, but the Mogador has stopped, so shots out. And yeah, it's just good enough to over penetrate. And now obviously I'm immediately coming under fire from the battleships again. And yeah, now I'm actually spotted because of that Yamato behind me. So I can no longer hide myself in this tactical position here. Yeah, we have at least the Ibuki has managed to take out the Mogador, going around the flank. I would have loved to go around the flank. The problem is this ship is so large that and gets spotted from orbit that it's generally a death sentence to move up forward. You need to stay back and play at max range. So I'm still trying to do any kind of meaningful damage against the Bourgogne, but it just doesn't look particularly good. So another salvo of armor piercing out, and then back to the high explosive and see if maybe we can set a fire on the Frenchman. I mean, it's okay. And you do get the shots on target against the battleships. Oh, there comes the Minotaur. So back to the armor piercing. And let's see if we can do something against that thing while we're trying to dodge these shots. And now Minor is out of range, and I'm out of radar range, and I'm trying to shoot at him. Unfortunately, the lock-on is sitting on the Montana, and I can't lock onto the Minor. So I would have to switch to manual targeting. But I'm down to 14,000 hit points, and at this point I need to reverse because my team, one of our battleships is outside the cap circle completely, and I'm just dodging as I can. So I've definitely been taking my share of fire here. Now I've gone undetected. Minor is still sitting in his smoke screen, can't lob this. So yeah, that's the other problem. You don't have the gun elevation to lob even the shallow islands from a close range. And if you're too far away from the shallow island, you're not going to see anything. So yeah, we are behind on points. Friendly Montana has made it into the capture circle, so that's much appreciated. And I am trying desperately to do anything against that Minotaur. See if we can get, at least from a closer range, some shots in and do something about that thing. Well, it's getting a little better in terms of the penetration. I can use the radar to spot the daring that's coming out of there. The problem is at tier 10, maybe we can get rid of the daring. No, because we had the armor piercing loaded. At tier 10, that happens. You just don't have the firepower to do anything in this ship. And it's not that I haven't been shooting at anyone, right? I've been firing my guns non-stop for almost the whole game, and I've managed to do 40,000 points of damage. And it's not that I've been firing against battleships the whole time. I have been shooting at the Minotaur as well. I just haven't been able to do an awful lot against it. So yeah, clear loss, because we've never managed to get anywhere near the center cap. And look at the Minotaur. For a ship that's been fired at by a heavy cruiser multiple times, it looks remarkably healthy. So that's sort of I think how you're supposed to play this ship. Now you could argue that, why don't you run on the flank? Because the thing is too bloody big. You can't hide anywhere. And she has no way. I mean, look at this. I've got 72,000 damage taken and only dished out 42. Still came second in the team now. The second battle is going to be against the carrier. In the midway, Yamato, Vermont, Shima, Khabarovsk. So a 5v5 on encounter. Yeah, so you have to play at range. You don't really have an alternative. If you poke out forward and try to be aggressive or get into positions, there's just no way this is going to happen with a ship that size that easily. So most of the time you got to play bow in, and the guns are the most disappointing feature in my opinion about the ship, given the caliber. The turret rotation is dreadful. You can most of the time only use 6 of them, and they just don't do the damage that I need to do. Now you could say, oh, you don't have the APCS skill. Yes, I don't, but I do have the historical camo on for at least. Who has the skill for that? Who has the points for that? Anyway, back to the battle here. We are escorting the Shima a little bit, and there is a target, so let's slow down. What is it? Oh, it's a Vermont. Okay. Now carrier set the Vermont on fire, so I'm getting ready to switch to high explosive. Oh, Shima spotted. Enemy Shima spotted. Over to the HE. And slow down, slow right down. And that wasn't actually a terrible salvo. 5k on a Vermont. There come the Shima torps. I'm gonna have to dodge these obviously, but yeah, there comes the return fire. And see, this is the problem. I've just taken 15,000 points of damage, right? In just like that, and then down my first heal, and we're barely just even 1 minute in. Okay, I need to dodge between these Shima shots. See if I can get a shot out at the Shima, but once again, the auto log on is giving me grief here. So going back into max range is nice, but you're not going to outrange a battleship. And now I have to play with the propulsion, trying to go back and forth, and just trying to dodge as much as possible. Maybe we can sneak some permafires on that Izumo over there. Oh no, Shimakazu spotted again. And let's see if we can get those shots on target. He's not looking, but my precise aim's on cooldown. I'm going to switch back over to the armor piercing, and yeah, none of these shots have hit. I don't know where they went, but nowhere near the Shima. So he is turning, coming under carrier fire. Let's see if he's doing a full turn, but I do have to watch out. I am effectively playing carrier escort here, sort of the role that the Moskva was intended for in her later days. And yeah, I've got a hit on the Shima, but the carrier is the one doing the actual damage there. Oh, Khabarovsk is flanking us because obviously, yeah, we've abandoned the right flank. So the one advantage that you have in this thing is that you can start taking shots at things like Khabarovsk's at a very, very long range. The problem is you're going to actually have to hit anything. So I mean, it's a Kaba. He's not going to be torpedoing anybody anytime soon, but he is annoying, so I might have to switch my fire. So I am once again getting ready to try and switch over to the armor piercing, because the HE is just so abysmal. Shots out at the Kaba while I'm still having the precise aim up. And yeah, you see it like semi-pens with the HE on the Khabarovsk, right? that's just not particularly great. So let's try the armor piercing. I think he is backing off because he's coming under carrier attack. Because the carrier has also spotted the Khabarovsk. And yeah, I do 1 full pen and 2 overpens. So the AP is quite ineffective against these things, and the HE as well. Now you could argue that with something like a Hipper, and yep, Khabarovsk has sped up, so these shots have missed. In a Hipper, you have a similar problem. Yes, you do, but you have these 203mm guns, which at long range will not easily overpenetrate destroyers. I don't know what it is with these guns, that they just don't work. Now I'm coming under carrier attack, that's why I'm using my defensive AA, and shot a plane or two down. And this is why I don't easily damacon. But I'm not sure what it is with these guns, but they are just too powerful to deal with destroyers, and they're just not powerful enough to deal with anything else really. So they are sitting, okay, and the midway takes out the carbon, nicely done. They are sitting in a really, really bad spot, in my opinion. Okay, now I'm coming under Yama fire, and once again, cannot really tank anything in this thing either. Let's see if we can get shots out across over that island, but nope, it's just too shallow. Just too shallow the elevation. I think Yama has damaconed the fire, but he's just run into, I think, some Shima torps, and the carrier is hitting him again. And of course he's shooting at me. And yeah, as you can see, setting fires in the ship isn't actually as easy as it should be. Now, at something like tier 9, this would be an amazing ship, but at tier 10, while I'm dodging more battleship shots, and finally we got a permafire. I have to say I'm really utterly frustrated by this thing. It's the exact same problem I'm having on the Petropavlovsk. That the firepower isn't there, and the ships are too large, and not armored well enough. Hey, we sunk something. Not armored well enough that they can stand and fight at the positions that they're supposed to. Because no matter how well you try to dodge, a ship that size, you will take battleship fire, and battleship fire is wearing your health down so quickly that you won't believe it. Now that the carrier is coming in for another run, I do have a damacon ready, and I have the defensive AA up. So we've shot one plane down, and then there comes the Vermont. There we've shot 2 planes down, and we have managed to dodge under the Vermont shots. So you can dodge, right? It's just tedious, and as soon as you come under even slightly concentrated fire, sorry, my shells were already in the air. If you come under slightly concentrated fire, the ship just melts away, because yeah, it has a large hit point pool, but it doesn't have the armor too much, and the sheer size of it is just an issue. I will have to play a game in the Hindenburg just to show you what an actual good tier 10 heavy cruiser can do, even against things like battleships. Okay, the carrier is coming after us again, so I'm going to try and stick with the midway as much as I can, just for the additional AA support. And yep, double fire, need to damacon that. Nothing I can do, otherwise I'd be dead. So of course the next dive bomber wave is going to set 1 or 2 permafires, and then that'll be that. But yeah, I'm sticking right next to the midway, so he'll give me some AA support. But yeah, we go, double permafire. So yeah, that's that. Ship dead. But look, we've done what we came here to do. We've protected the midway as good as we could, and yeah, all in all, personally, a ship I would avoid. If you like the Petropavlovsk and you're really happy about that ship and you like the playstyle, this could be an option for you, right? So just be aware that the rear turret does not have the 360-degree rotation, even though in my opinion it doesn't make a massive difference on the Petro. And it's, in my opinion, it is a below average cruiser, not something that I would particularly enjoy playing. So yeah, there you go. I'm sorry if I have not great ships this week, but the Moskva has been requested quite frequently as a review. So here's my take on it. And if you actually really like that ship and have great success in it, then more power to you. Personally, I will keep my wallet closed for that one. So that's it for today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.